The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
There being 94 members present, a quorum is not present.
Texas House members remain out of state. Why they say and what they say they are willing to do, and how the Supreme Court may handle a legal battle over the controversial district maps.
Now, there is certainly evidence in our search area that he's present, and that we're hunting in the right haystack.
One national manhunt comes to an end while another narrows down. The latest on the search for 2 quadruple murder suspects, and the future of drones and delivery service. How a new regulation could change how you get that package on your doorstep. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and new tonight, the House Oversight Committee chairman has issued several subpoenas as the Jeffrey Epstein investigation continues. The committee is seeking files related to the sex trafficking investigation of the late financier with ties to numerous elites. Over the next 3 months, some very high-profile names will be compelled to testify. Beginning in 2 weeks, former U.S. attorneys, look at this list right here, Bill Barr, Alberto Gonzales, and Jeff Sessions, all of whom served Republican presidents. Then in September, the committee is calling in former FBI Director Robert Mueller, and then Democratic Attorneys General Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder. In October, former U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, former FBI Director James Comey, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and an unprecedented subpoena of a former president, Bill Clinton, is being called on the 14th. And it seems at least some Democrats in the House are on board with this investigation.
I think that the subpoenas that we've heard about that have been issued this morning show that they're being issued in a very bipartisan way, going back a long time. I think that the House committee that's investigating this wants to see if there is something there, that they're making sure that anybody that might have been involved is going to be out there, and we're going to have to see what happens.
Meanwhile, the Department of Justice has opened a grand jury investigation into allegations of conspiracy by the Obama administration. It's focused on the role top officials played in making the case the Trump campaign had ties to Russia, which the president himself has called a hoax. National correspondent Christine Frizzell lays out the case and why critics say it's one that's already been litigated.
I have no relationship to Russia.
It played out on the airwaves from coast to coast.
That's perhaps one more reason why we're not seeing his tax returns, because he is deeply involved in dealing with Russian oligarchs.
For Hillary Clinton in 2016, connecting Donald Trump to Russia was a key campaign strategy. The grand jury investigation just launched by the Department of Justice focuses on what happened next after Donald Trump won the election, but before he took office.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's referral to the DOJ leading to the just announced grand jury investigation by Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Pam is doing a great job. I have nothing to do with it. I will tell you this, they deserve it. I was happy to hear it.
But critics say what Director Gabbard calls treasonous conspiracy does not match what was said at the time. Also reflected in the documents her agency just declassified, that foreign adversaries do not have and will probably not obtain the capabilities to successfully execute widespread and undetected cyber attacks. Cyber attacks, though different from online influence operations, confirmed by then Senator Marco Rubio, who investigated the case during Trump's first term.
I don't think Vladimir Putin interfered in our elections. I don't believe he interfered in our elections. I know it for a fact.
Democrats argue this week's action is simply to distract.
You have a president and President Trump who wants people to talk about anything other than the Epstein investigation, which he is very, very clearly worried about, the release of the Epstein files.
As far as what happens next, the grand jury investigation allows prosecutors to subpoena documents and solicit testimony to determine whether indictments could be next. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
57 Texas House members remain out of state, and the state legislature is stuck in an impasse, unable to vote on the redistricting maps or any other legislation like funding for Kirk County following last month's horrific deadly floods. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has issued a civil arrest warrants for the lawmakers. Still, the lawmakers stand by their decision despite the threats against them.
Right now, there's folks saying that we walked out. And I think everyone behind me will say, we're standing up. And as Texans would say, we're standing tall. There's others that are saying and warning us that they're going to arrest us or make us pay fines. I'll pay that price for America. Yes. And I think everyone behind me would say they would do the same.
Today on CNBC, President Donald Trump doubles down on his request to draw new maps in Texas, pointing to his popular vote 2024 general election victory that ended with only a small advantage in the House, while Illinois' governor pushed back against the effort. Listen.
We have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats. We have a really good governor, and we have good people in Texas. And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
They've decided that the only way to save themselves is to cheat, to change the rules in the middle of the game.
The Texas map, if passed, could be headed to the Supreme Court before it takes hold. But in 2019, the High Court, in a 5-4 decision, allowed partisan redistricting efforts to stand. The case at hand left 2 questionable maps in effect, one by North Carolina Republicans and one by Maryland Democrats, both considered some of the worst gerrymandered districts in the country. Montana's governor says police are working around the clock to find the suspect in the deadly shooting in Anaconda. 45-year-old Michael Brown is accused of killing 4 people at a bar on Friday night. Officials say they assume Brown is armed and extremely dangerous. The governor says Montana will prosecute him to the full extent of the law.
Rest assured, our brave men and women of law enforcement aren't giving up. And I ask you that you not give up on them either. Think of them in your prayers and support them and their families as you can.
Gianforte signed an executive order releasing emergency funds to support local law enforcement. Authorities are offering a $10,000 reward for information that leads to Brown's arrest. In Tennessee, meantime, the manhunt for a quadruple murder suspect has ended as authorities found and arrested Austin Drummond in Jackson today. Surveillance video spotted the suspect trying to enter a house in the area. Last week, a baby was found alive on the road after the baby's mother, father, grandmother, and uncle were found dead nearby. 3 others have been arrested for aiding and abetting Drummond while he was on the run. Attorneys for a Tennessee prisoner who was executed today, they are planning to review data from his heart implant as part of an autopsy. Witnesses say convicted triple murderer Byron Black said he was in pain during the lethal injection. Black's lawyers had tried to stop the execution, arguing his heart implant could shock him. The Supreme Court and Tennessee's governor allowed it to proceed. Rwanda is the 3rd African country that will accept deported migrants from the United States. The Rwandan government told Reuters today that they will take in up to 250 people and have already begun the vetting for at least 10. According to the officials, the Rwandan government must approve each individual before they are sent to the African nation. While on the border, meantime, U.S. agents are being instructed by a federal judge to stop deporting migrants who claim asylum. Earlier this year, President Trump issued an order to ban asylum claims. But then on Friday, an appeals court partially agreed with a lower court's ruling that says the edict doesn't follow immigration laws. For now, these migrants must be allowed due process in the U.S. to adjudicate their claims for humanitarian refuge. The DOJ can appeal to the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, on college campuses across the country, a new divide is becoming apparent as some schools are teaming up with ICE officials while others are blocking ICE involvement, seeking non-legal residents in the school system. The National News Desk, Angela Brown explains.
A new investigation by Campus Reform is exposing a sharp red versus blue divide in higher education over immigration enforcement. Over 35 colleges or universities, many in blue states, are refusing to cooperate with ICE on campus. Some call themselves a sanctuary campus. Others use terms like safe campus, but the policy is the same. Emily Sturge, Campus Reform.
They're also refusing to cooperate with ICE authorities on campus. They are refusing to carry out immigration operations on college campuses, and they're even going as far as to block ICE agents from certain campus buildings.
One of the schools named is Portland State University in Oregon. A statement from the university president makes it clear, since 2016, PSU has held firm in its status as a sanctuary campus. Public safety officers do not enforce federal immigration law, do not consent to or facilitate immigration enforcement actions on campus, and we protect the confidentiality of student records as required by law. Advocates argue sanctuary policies help students feel safe on campus, knowing immigration status will not prompt raids or deportation. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
The owner of the submersible that imploded and killed 5 people in 2023 is responding to the Coast Guard's new report on the tragedy. An Ocean Gate spokesperson said, "We again offer our deepest condolences to everyone impacted." The report finds the implosion was preventable and Ocean Gate had critically flawed safety procedures. The CEO, among those killed, could have faced criminal charges. Ocean Gate suspended operations in July 2023. When public schools open in Arkansas in 2 weeks, all but 4 school districts must display the 10 Commandments in the classroom. These 4 won an injunction against the mandate as a district court ruled the law unconstitutional. Similar laws are tied up in court in Texas and Louisiana with similar rulings. Louisiana's Attorney General is appealing their decision. It is expected the U.S. Supreme Court will eventually have to decide and step in. A second death has been reported in New York City stemming from the Legionnaire disease outbreak near Harlem. At least 58 people have been diagnosed with the bacterial infection within the last 10 days. Last week, the city's health department listed 1 dead and 22 infected. City officials say anyone with flu-like symptoms in the area should call a health provider immediately. New details. We have learned Ozzy Osbourne died of a heart attack. That's according to the legendary rocker's death certificate filed in London. It also states that the longtime Black Sabbath frontman suffered from coronary artery disease and Parkinson's. He was 76 years old. He died on July 22nd and was buried on the 30th. Coming up next here, new progress on a massive wildfire that is threatening to burn down hundreds of buildings in California. Then the number of people treated for tick bites is surging to levels not seen in years. The conditions causing these parasites to thrive. Then later, the concerns raised by leaders in one state over President Trump's executive order on homelessness. We'll be right back. We come back on the air. A massive wildfire is threatening more than 800 buildings in Central California right now. Los Padres National Forest officials say the Gifford fire has burned over 82,000 acres. It's 7% contained. The Santa Barbara County Fire Department says the flames have run into the burn scar from July's Madre fire, which is helping prevent further spread eastward. Meantime, smoke from wildfires in Canada is still reducing air quality in several states. Look at the map. Today, air quality alerts were issued for parts of the upper Great Lakes, upper Mississippi Valley, the Northeast, and the Mid-Atlantic. The smoke is not as intense as it was on some days in the summer of 2023, but experts say it's still harmful.
Overall, the atmosphere is laden with smoke. Thankfully, it's not thickest at the surface, but it's enough so that the air quality index gets pushed up.
People who are not in sensitive groups should still avoid prolonged exposure. The Trump administration is now blocked from defunding a FEMA program that aims to prevent storm damage. Today, a federal judge issued a preliminary injunction requested by 20 Democrat-run states. The states claimed FEMA doesn't have the authority to reallocate the funding. The government argued FEMA should be able to use the money for either disaster recovery or prevention. The Department of Transportation sees a near future of Americans getting their packages and food deliveries not from trucks, but from flying drones. National correspondent Matt Galka reports on the pitch to own the airwaves.
The Department of Transportation hopes to have more drones in the air.
We are going to unleash American drone dominance,
with the hopes of making it easier to get deliveries from the machine straight to your door.
You may change the way you get your Amazon package. You may get a Starbucks cup of coffee from a drone. The way you get your products will fundamentally change.
Drones have been gaining traction with law enforcement, sometimes replacing first responders depending on the emergency.
Drones are saving lives, and they're doing that because it's transforming how responders respond to emergency calls dramatically.
Now commercial drones could be catching up. A proposed rule change has to do with regulations regarding lines of sight on drones. Current rules don't typically allow drones to fly out of sight from what's known as a visual observer monitoring the machines on the ground. Companies are granted exceptions in a case-by-case basis, but many believe the red tape is burdensome. Amazon has invested heavily in the use of drones as delivery vehicles, and founder Jeff Bezos has been talking about the technology becoming the norm for well over a decade.
These are effectively drones, but there's no reason that they can't be used as delivery vehicles. I know it can't be before 2015 because that's the earliest that we could get the rules from the FAA. My guess is that's probably a little optimistic.
The president signed an executive order in June directing the FAA to have a final drone rule by next year. Safety will be a chief concern, with the FAA dealing with outdated technology and reports of near misses with planes. Adding more drones could create more air traffic congestion.
We keep a keen eye on making sure that we can deploy drones and keep airplanes safe and keep them separated and make sure that, again, we allow the innovators to innovate. Because you go out 10 years, you can't innovate any longer, and you're going to deploy someone else's drone technology into the U.S., and that's a huge problem.
Changing the current rules is just a proposal right now. Under the plan, flights couldn't occur any higher than 400 feet. Drones would need lighting and to be broadcasting remote IDs, and they'd have a weight limit around 1,300 pounds.
And also, Matt, the Transportation Secretary today said this was a national security issue. Tell us more about his concerns.
Yeah, this is part of the push to use American innovation and American drones in the skies. Duffy's point had to do with a long-running national security concern about businesses, agencies, and even law enforcement using Chinese-made drones where sensitive data and recordings could possibly be used for spying purposes. They'd rather see American companies having access to that data.
Matt Galka reporting from the Capitol. Thank you. The number of people seeking treatment for tick bites is up this year. The CDC reporting emergency care for tick bites has reached the highest level since 2017. Reported cases of Lyme disease have also been on the rise. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, Lyme disease-carrying ticks are more active when it's above 45 degrees and when there's 85% humidity. Florida officials are warning people to be cautious if they buy raw milk. The state health department says there have been 21 cases of Campylobacter and E. coli connected to raw milk from one unnamed farm. 7 people were hospitalized. The department says it's concerned about the farm's cleanliness. Drinking raw milk is becoming more popular, but it does carry risks. A newer procedure can help reduce signs of aging on your hands. Medical reporter Liz Bonus shows us how it works.
Hey there, everybody. We're going all hands on deck today as we share with you one of the procedures many are now turning to help keep hands forever young.
And what we do is we draw the patient's blood.
It's a process, Dr. Elizabeth Munich told us, that uses your own body to restore itself from that blood.
We harvest the platelet-rich plasma, and that's called PRP. And in this case, we're going to mix it with the patient's poor plasma, the PPP.
Then, as Dr. Munich showed us here at Ohio's Dermatology and Skincare Associates, that becomes a patient-specific filler for, saying, trans hands.
I can tell like a difference in my hand already.
You can see a slight difference right away as this is injected into the hands, but over time, the growth factors from this formula stimulate Sang's collagen.
I could see the smoothness, and it's really taken off a couple hairs off my skin.
What's amazing about this is you'll see immediate results. You'll see some immediate results today for our patient. And then what we like to do is we treat, and then we treat about anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks later, we do a second series, and then that treatment can last 2 to 3 years.
Starting costs for this procedure about $1,500, and in most cases, if it's for cosmetic purposes, it is not covered by your medical insurance plan. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Coming up, a father is facing charges after his 4-year-old shot his unsecured gun. The disturbing discoveries made at the man's house after his arrest. We'll be right back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in California, where leaders react to President Trump's executive order on homelessness.
In a sweeping executive order, President Trump is calling for the homeless who also struggle with mental illness and addiction to be placed in institutions, and for funding to be pulled from harm reduction programs such as syringe access, naloxone distribution, and supervised injection programs. From the public health side, officials say the order may present logistical challenges, especially in rural areas where treatment options such as treatment beds and detox programs are already limited.
Statewide, there is a critical shortage of all of those things, and locally it's much worse than the statewide situation. So, we need many more resources to try and close those gaps. This executive order doesn't appear to create new resources.
44-year-old David Neff pleading not guilty to all 14 charges he currently faces in light of his 4-year-old getting a hold of his pistol and shooting his wife by accident while he was asleep on the couch. Neff claimed it was holstered on his waist. Detectives say he appeared to be on drugs when talking to him. And upon searching the home, they say they found what we now know to be 73 firearms within the residence, most of them easily accessible to the 4- and 9-year-olds in the house. And to the detective's surprise, over 10 homemade explosive devices. Prosecutors harping on the public safety threat in charging papers as well, showing this drawing with Neff's name on it that was found in the home, detailing what they say is a mass shooting of the community that he lives in.
Farmers across the Central Valley are in the middle of a not new but growing problem that they say is only getting worse. A rodent crisis from rats to squirrels and even gophers.
It's not affecting just the crop itself, but they're doing permanent damage to trees. They're going after the irrigation system. Numerous reports of them going after wiring on tractors and equipment and stuff to a much larger degree than we've ever seen.
To combat the problem, farmers have been relying on traps and pest control chemicals.
That we've learned through this situation, there's not one easy answer on this.
Coming up next, how President Trump is preparing for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. We'll have that story right after this. A new 2028 Olympics task force will work to make sure the games are safe and streamlined. Today, President Trump signed an executive order establishing the group and said he was excited for the event.
I didn't think I'd be here for the games in this capacity, but it worked out that way. So I'm very happy about that. I had no idea that was going to happen. When we got it, I said, it's too bad I won't be president then, but sort of we took a very circuitous route, didn't we?
The 2028 LA Olympics will be the first ones hosted by the United States since 2002. Join us again tonight as we learn more about the new House subpoenas in the Epstein documents investigation. For now, I'm Didi Gatton here in Washington. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you again at 10.